Hey guys, it's Jim, welcome back to my channel, and it is time for another requested review. This is a review from John. This is for 1958's epic western film The Big Country, starring Gregory Peck and Charlton Heston. So I'm really grateful for this request, because this movie was not what I expected whatsoever. And I love westerns, I really do. I love John Wayne, I love Clint Eastwood. I love the kind of epic movies of the 50s and, the 60s, the big scale films, the melodramas, but the epic kind of grand sweeping films, and this is one of them. The Big Country really is, but it's a very unique take on the western archetype, I think, and the masculine archetype. It tells the story of the sea captain James McKay, played by Gregory Peck, who goes back to the west and kind of goes back to his partner Patricia, played by Carroll Baker, and her father, played by Charles Bickford, are having trouble with a rival group of kind of renegade locals called the Hennessy's, and they're kind of just rowdy and bad, and they have reasons for hating the kind of wealthy other side of the tracks. And James McKay comes back and he decides to try and mend that wound, and it's a very unique take on this, because you'd expect this to be James McKay comes back and he's this kind of, what I expected to happen was he'd come back and he'd be the reserved guy who they'd slowly keep pressing his buttons, and eventually he'd lash out and become like a western hero. But it goes an entirely different way. Like, he comes back, he meets the Hennessy's, and Hennessy's are complete arsehole bastards, but James McKay keeps his cool and keeps his temper, and you realise this film's starting to go in a different direction than what you expected. This is a movie about picking your battles. This is a movie about not necessarily kicking off and having to be masculine and having to prove yourself and having to fight on everything. And I am fascinated that this movie came out at this time, at the time of John Wayne, at the time of Clint Eastwood, or around the time of Clint Eastwood, where these masculine figures, they were fighters, they were aggressive, they would never back down. Gregory Peck's character in this is completely different. He's diplomatic, he's calm, he's cool, but he doesn't care if people think he's tough. And in turn, that makes him, if anything, more of an admirable character by the end, because he doesn't, he even at the expense of his fiancée Patricia is frustrated with him, because she wants him to fight. She calls him a coward.
But you wouldn't do it for me. Why not? Why not for me?
But there are some things that a man has to prove to himself alone, not to anyone else.
Not even to the woman he loves?
Least of all to her, if she loves him.
And I'm very impressed, because you don't even get this stuff today. Like, to have it back here in an age where masculinity was entirely different. Like, people talk about masculinity being a problem now, toxic masculinity being a slight problem now. Just ask Will Smith. Back here, to make a statement like this, so ambitious. It's one of the most ambitious westerns of that period by far. He does some kind of aggressive and honourable things, but he doesn't do it in front of people, and he doesn't even tell his wife. There's one point in this where one of the guys who lives around him, who isn't part of the Hennessy's but is jealous of him, is just constantly pushing him to fight him for Patricia. And what James decides to do is fight this guy out in the middle of nowhere. And this is the character played by Charlton Heston. So you get Gregory Peck versus Charlton Heston, classic stuff, in this kind of secluded just landscape, and they have a fight. Patricia doesn't know about it, no one knows about it. It's just these two men seeing who the better man is. And so James McKay, he's not a coward, but he has no interest in doing things in front of people to make them think of himself as this masculine guy. And I love that, because it shows that he's actually a real man. Like, all he has to do is prove it to himself, even to his wife. He goes that far. He doesn't want to just show her he can fight just to impress her. He does all that for himself, and that scene is wonderful. There's many fantastic scenes in this. And the landscapes in this, you really marvel. I really marvel looking back at the 50s westerns, because they're so beautifully shot, so wonderfully done. Director William Wyler does so well of just showing you the epic grand landscapes, as many of these films did. But they just absorb you and wrap you up, and stand out and really captivate you. Such a beautiful place the West was at this time, and such a great period to kind of speculate on. You know, and these films were very slow paced. You know, this is quite a long film, but the film's given a chance to breathe. You know, the film's storyline is gradual, and the characters, you get to know them gradually, and this was very much the case back here. There were such gradual paces. Do I feel like this is overlong? I don't know. I mean, I did find myself getting a bit bored at some points, but I just love the epic spectacle of these sorts of films, so that kind of length adds to it. There's some great memorable scenes in this, like I said, Gregory Peck's fight with Charlton Heston, and Charlton Heston's great in this as well. You've also got a scene where one of the Hennessy's just walks in, and it's such a well shot scene. He just enters like Michael Myers into a family dance and starts making threats, and that's a wonderfully tense scene, and it shows the kind of tension between the two camps.
You rode into my place and beat my men for the last time, and I give you warning. You set foot in Blanco Canyon once more, and this country's gonna run red with blood till there ain't one of us left. Now, I don't hold mine so precious, so if you want to start, here. Start now.
The film is also very nuanced. It doesn't just say violence is bad. It's not one of those pacifistic films. Is that a word, pacifistic? It treats pacifism as a good thing, but you see the downfalls of it. You know, McKay loses a lot in this. A lot happens, a lot of people don't understand him, they reject him, things go wrong for him in a lot of ways. So it does show the kind of perils of taking that approach, especially back here. Was it always best, we see in this film, was it always best for McKay to take the higher road and not be violent and not fight back and try and kind of fight for peace with these kind of horrible people, outlaws who don't really care about peace? It shows also the drawbacks of being a pacifist, how it can cause more trouble than you're intending to solve. To add that extra layer on of critiquing even that shows that this is a well thought out, well executed film that is such a standout for the time. And it's a film that doesn't ever shove anything down your throat. It's very gradual, very slow moving, but it's a film that sweeps over you, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I was not expecting this. And it has a great ending, a really, really great build up to an ending that again shows good was achieved, but there's drawbacks to even what was achieved. And that's so honest. If you have any interest in sort of 50s westerns and westerns in general, you should watch this film. It is a standout of that time. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please subscribe to this channel if you're a movie geek just like me. Comment down below if you've seen this film. What do you think of The Big Country? Like the video, and as always, I'll also see you guys in the next video.